But effective delegation helps to build trust between team members and management. It leads to a more positive, transparent, and collaborative work environment. Remember, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you're going to need a team. Now, to run a profitable, enjoyable, and impactful chiropractic practice, we must be prepared to go far. This means you need a team and you need to learn how to delegate. Now, according to the Institute of Corporate Productivity, organizations that encourage a practice delegation are 33% more effective, and they're 37% more likely to have better retention rates, okay? Now, right now in the world, particularly this post-COVID world, one of the biggest challenges that chiropractors are facing with their staff and their associates, okay, is really poor retention. It's hard for us to find good people, and when we find them, it's hard for us to keep them. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I have the pleasure of simplifying the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. In today's episode, it's going to be all about helping you buy back your time, increase the effectiveness of your work, help you help more people, improve your work-life balance, enjoyment, and ultimately boost your practice's income and profitability. These are all things that many of us are striving for, but we struggle to achieve amidst our really busy schedules and the numerous responsibilities that we have. Now, you might be wondering how we're going to accomplish all of this. Well, the answer lies in mastering the art of delegation. Now, I know that delegation might not sound like the most thrilling of topics at first glance, but I promise you this, the impact of it on your practice and on your personal life can be immense. Now, effective delegation is all about freeing up your schedule so that you can focus on what truly matters. Imagine having more hours in your day. Now, this might be to concentrate on patient care, strategic planning, or even spending more time on the golf course or with your family. When you do it right, delegation allows you to offload tasks that others can handle. It gives you freedom to excel in areas where your skills are most needed. Now, this shift doesn't just help you transform your work-life balance by making you more effective and productive, but it also is going to help you help more people enjoy a better work-life balance. There'll be no more burning the candle at both ends, trying to juggle every single responsibility. Now, let's not forget also the financial benefits. A more efficient and productive practice leads to increased income and profitability. It allows you to reinvest in your practice and in your personal growth. So in today's episode, we're going to dive a little deeper into why is delegation important. I want to share with you the 3 big mistakes that I see chiropractors do when they delegate, and this gets in the way of them getting all of the benefits that we've talked about so far. And then I'm going to take you through an 8-part checklist to help you identify which tasks are best for delegation. So let's go a bit deeper into why is delegation important. There's 3 categories here that it can have a huge impact on. The first is increasing efficiency and productivity. No surprises there as well. But when we delegate tasks, it allows for more efficient allocation of resource. This enables team members to focus on their areas of expertise, team members including yourself, okay? So therefore, it increases overall productivity. Now, according to the Gallup study, companies that encourage delegation are 112% more likely to be high revenue generating organizations, okay? So mastering this skill is going to make you more money, okay? It's worth pushing through the pain. The second thing it does, and this is one of the most or most ignored components of really good delegation, is that it fosters a positive work environment, okay? We're going to get into this in a moment when I talk about some of the mistakes. But effective delegation helps to build trust between team members and management. It leads to a more positive, transparent, and collaborative work environment. Remember, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, you're going to need a team. Now, to run a profitable, enjoyable, and impactful chiropractic practice, we must be prepared to go far. This means you need a team and you need to learn how to delegate. Now, according to the Institute of Corporate Productivity, organizations that encourage a practice delegation are 33% more effective, and they're 37% more likely to have better retention rates, okay? Now, right now in the world, particularly this post-COVID world, one of the biggest challenges that chiropractors are facing with their staff and their associates, okay, is really poor retention. It's hard for us to find good people, and when we find them, it's hard for us to keep them. Now, understanding delegation and the roles it plays, we're going to talk about motivation in a moment there, will help you keep good people for longer. And then finally, no surprises here, it improves work-life balance. When we delegate tasks, Practice owners can maintain a healthier work-life balance, and this is just flat out crucial for us being able to play the long game, okay? So a statistic by the EY found that 75% of business owners are really struggling to manage work-life balance, okay? This is absolutely the truth amongst chiropractors because I'm speaking with you each and every week, okay? So 3 simple reasons why we need to get some mastery in around this. Now, again, there are mistakes because delegation is not necessarily something new to us as chiropractors. Many of you have attempted it. Many of you have then thrown it into the cupboard because it didn't seem to work as well. So there are 3 mistakes that you tend to make with this. The first is micromanaging. So micromanaging involves an excessive need for you to control every detail of a task. It leaves very little room for the delegate to make independent decisions. Now, this approach doesn't work because it stifles creativity and initiative, and it leads to a disengaged team. So it means they want to leave you. It also wastes your valuable time as well, which could be better spent on tasks requiring your expertise. Now, it's important here that we have a brief discussion around what motivates our team members. Now, a few years back, Daniel Pink wrote a book called Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. Now, Pink argues in here, while money is a motivator, it's not the most effective one for tasks that require cognitive skills, creativity, and problem solving. This is what we want in our associates. This is what we want in our chiropractors. According to Pink, the 3 primary factors that motivate people, especially for these more complex tasks, are firstly, autonomy. This is the desire to have control over one's work and freedom to make choices. So autonomy fosters a sense of ownership and responsibility, which can be highly motivating, okay? If we don't have autonomy, our work flat out isn't enjoyable as it ought to be, okay? The other thing that people are looking for in their work is they're looking for mastery. This is the urge to improve and become proficient in meaningful tasks. Our staff want this. They want to get really good at things, and when we micromanage, it gets in the way. So people are motivated when they feel that they're gaining mastery over a particular skill or a subject. And then the third thing that motivates us is purpose. The need to feel that one's work serves a greater good or contributes to something larger than one's self, okay? A strong sense of purpose can be a powerful motivator. Now, micromanaging creates a roadblock in each of these 3 motivators. So it stifles autonomy. So micromanage takes away the individual's freedom to make decisions. It directly contradicts the principle of autonomy. So when team members feel like they're mere executors rather than decision makers, their motivation and their engagement plummets. Okay, this means they're not enjoying the work and they'll want to leave. Okay, we won't get the best of them. Okay. Micromanagement hampers mastery. It means we don't get the best out of our staff because constant oversight prevents team members from taking ownership of tasks and gaining the experience needed to achieve mastery, okay? When we're always looking over their shoulder, they're scared about making mistakes. If they don't make mistakes, then mastery is impossible, okay? So this means there's a lack of skill development, and this will lead to stagnation and, again, decreased job satisfaction, okay? And the third thing that micromanagement does is it dilutes purpose, okay? When every action is dictated or scrutinized, team members, your CAs or your associates are going to lose sight of the larger purpose behind a task. This is going to result in a lack of enthusiasm and disconnection to the practice's broader goals, okay? So micromanagement directly gets in the way of you getting the best out of your staff, them finding purpose, autonomy, and mastery, okay? Now, the second mistake that chiropractors make is they abdicate rather than delegate. This was a big one for me until really the last 4 or 5 years, okay? Now, abdication means completely relinquishing control of a task without any oversight, and we often confuse this with delegation, okay? We hand it on to somebody and say, here, you do it as well. When we abdicate responsibility, this almost always leads to poor outcomes. It lacks the necessary checks and balance. It results in errors, inconsistencies, and even potential risks to your practice, okay? Abdication sets you and your team member up for failure, and it's based around a complete fantasy. We're buying into the fantasy that we're seeing the end result of delegation in other practice. Maybe we see staff running scans, helping out with a whole bunch of tasks. That looks really amazing to us. And so we just tell our staff, hey, I want you to start doing this as well. It's this idea of, passive income. I have not yet to see completely passive income. I've always had to watch over my properties. I always need to manage the stocks that I'm investing in. I need to be watching these things. And the same goes for delegation. So delegation is not a set and forget it approach. It involves assigning a task, providing the necessary oversight, the resources, and the support to ensure that is completely effective, okay? Now, here's a big thing for you to remember. Delegation in the early stages very often requires more work, okay? And this is where chiropractors fall short, and they default back to this concept of it's just faster if I do it myself. We'll talk about the marshmallow test a little bit later on and where this all fits in. But if you find yourself saying, you know what, it's faster if I just do it myself, then you're really missing out on the bigger picture of delegation. Probably why you've failed in the past is that you've abdicated and you haven't set yourself up in the beginning to know that it's going to be a little bit more work, okay? And this leads on to this third mistake, and that is we flat out don't allow for sufficient time and allocation of resources. So we don't give our staff the time to learn it, and we don't give them the resources. So when we fail to allocate enough time or provide resources to our staff, particularly for new tasks, this often results in rushed or at very best subpar work. So insufficient time allocation leads to stress and errors, decreased work quality, and it's also going to lead to burnout. Now, we learned this firsthand the hard way a number of years ago when we were delegating our social media to our office manager at the time, Carly, an amazing person there too. And in the first phases, we kind of just said, Carly, just get this done in between times, when the phone's not ringing, the patients aren't in, maybe there's a new patient time. This expectation of having Carly to multitask meant that the work often wasn't done, or if it was done, then it was just not up to the quality that we're wanting, okay? It wasn't until we sat down with Carly and said, why is this not working? And we realized that what she needed is very specific time for this, okay? So we set aside time on a Tuesday morning where she could go to the back office and she could get this done. And then there was a massive breakthrough, okay? So here, we weren't giving her the time. Now, often what we do is that we fail to provide people with the resources. So expecting your staff person to do something without giving them the tools is wishful thinking, okay? Now, this might mean that you need to pay for training. It might mean you buy books. It might mean you suggest podcasts. But we need to make sure they have the time and the resources to succeed. So which of these three do you suffer from most? Is it micromanaging? Is it constantly having to have an eye over people? Is it abdicating? Have you just handed off a task there? Do you not have the checks and balances? Or are you not providing the time and the resources? I had a training recently with community influencer members on this topic here as well. And it was a real mix in terms of all three of those. So let's move forwards now onto how do we choose tasks to delegate. I want to take you through an 8-point checklist to help you identify which tasks are perfect for delegation and which ones aren't. Now, the first thing we need to check is the task repetitive or routine? So tasks that are repetitive and routine are ideal candidates for delegation. These tasks usually don't require specialized knowledge or skill. It makes them really easy to delegate if we have the right support around it. So when we delegate these routine tasks, you can free up your time for more strategic activities, okay? So this might be things like ordering stock. It could be things like scanning patients. We had a CA in our practice always do all the scannings. It could be taking posture photos or even do a pillow fitting. Now, I realized the fundamentals of doing a pillow fitting were not something that I required my 5-year university degree for. I showed a CA how to do it. Here's what to look for. And then when it came to choosing a pillow, I'd go, great questions there too. Mackenzie's going to take you out the back there. She'll take you through the 3 different pillow sizes and she'll choose one that works perfectly for you. It was then not 5 minutes of my time. It was profitable for the practice. Mackenzie loved doing those sorts of things because there was a reproducible manner on how we went through it. It didn't require specialized tasks. So this moves us on to the next point. Does the task require specialized knowledge or skills? Now, tasks that require specialized knowledge or skills may be harder to delegate unless the team member has or can acquire the necessary expertise, okay? Now, because these tasks are specialized, the choice of who to delegate it to often decreases. And this means the cost of delegating it is going to be higher and you may well need to look outside your practice. Now, however, just because it requires specialized skills doesn't mean that we shouldn't delegate this. Okay, now some things such as tax or staff contracts or legal matters, these require specialized skills and they absolutely should be delegated, okay, to those people who are well versed. So again, check in. Does this require specialized skills and knowledge? Do I have the staff person that has those skills? Do I therefore need to look outside? And therefore I need to realistically expect that it's going to cost me more money to delegate that. The third point to think about here is the task time consuming? Time-consuming tasks can significantly detract from your ability to focus on high-priority responsibilities. So these are great to delegate, okay? So anything that buys you back more time ensures that you're going to be improving the impact and the profitability and your enjoyment. So marketing, creating and scheduling social media tasks, this is a perfect thing to delegate because it can take up a lot of time. Whilst there's not high levels of specialized skills, we do need to train our staff on it, okay? So look for all the things that take a lot of time and how do I offload that, okay? Number 4, can the person perform this with adequate training, okay? If I train somebody, so if we go back to again, even scanning our practice members, taking the posture photos, even helping in the taking of the x-ray process, processing the x-rays, these are all things that with some training, my staff were able to do this. So a tough task, man, I've got the mumbles today. If a task can be performed by somebody else with adequate training, it's a good candidate for delegation. But this does mean you are going to need to provide the training. And I talked about this beforehand. The big mistake that we make is that we don't provide the training resources all the time as well. Now, here's an important thing to consider with this, okay? The goal isn't necessarily for having somebody to do and achieve the same level of mastery as you have on many of the tasks. Often 80% is enough of a proficiency, okay? So if it's social media or things like this and you happen to have a bit of a flair for that, it's not about getting somebody to create the same kind of content. Often, if we can get 80% as good, that's where we want to know. However, there are some tasks that require high accuracy and expertise, like managing your taxes and your finances. We don't want to hand this off to somebody and have them doing only 80% a job. So when you're thinking about that, can I get this off and hand it off to somebody else with some adequate training? Know that some jobs, good enough is okay. Getting to B- is going to be a win for you because it will buy you back a significant amount of time. Now, again, does the task provide an opportunity for team development? This comes back to this whole concept of motivation I talked about before. So delegating tasks that provide learning and growth opportunities will be really beneficial for entire team development by assigning challenging tasks, achievable tasks to your team members. This will help them to build new skills and increase their engagement and job satisfaction. So I introduced you a little bit before to Carly, our office manager. Now, at the time we started to delegate this entire social media to Carly, we could see that she was getting a little bit bored with her work. She wasn't as engaged and inspired by it, and we were worried, and she was even starting to tell us because she was close, that maybe she was thinking it was time to move on. Now, when we handed on this entire role to her, she was enthusiastic, she was inspired, she loved it, there's a whole bunch of enjoyment. Now, Carly ended up staying with us for another couple of years because of that role, okay? So find a task that we can add on to somebody else. Not only does this buy you time and improve the efficiency and effectiveness of the practice, but it'll also really improve drive and motivation for your staff people as well. The 6th point to consider here is the task low risk if mistakes are made? Okay, so low risk tasks are great for delegation. The consequences, if they do go south, are manageable. Delegating tasks like this allows team members to learn and grow in a safe environment. Okay, so it fosters confidence and competence without risks to the practice. Again, social media is a great example of this. If Carly happened to muck up our social media, if she happens to get the branding wrong or miss out on a logo, it's not the end of the world. The 7th thing to think about here is you have to be clear on what success looks like, okay? It's crucial here to know this. So if you're delegating something, we want to know what is the vision, okay? We want to have measurable KPIs. We want to understand what things can we expect. Now, without clarity, delegation can often lead to misunderstandings and frustration. Now, I often see chiropractors delegate their marketing to, different sorts of teams, social media managers, agencies, and things like that too. And they're not really clear on what success looks like, or they think it's all just about patients coming in the door. So again, in the early stages, we might not see a lot of that. We might be getting lots of engagement, interaction with our posts. We might be getting more views to our website. We might be building that, but there might not be patients coming in the door. So if we're not really clear on what success looks like, okay, delegation can be tricky. Now, I had a client of mine recently who's just opened up their practice. They're a new grad going into opening up their practice. Now, he's never worked as a CA. His practice is busy enough to bring on a CA, but he has no idea how to go about training them. However, he's really clear on what success looks like. Now, because he knows what success looks like and he's prepared to work through some of the challenges of, failure and training and things like that too, he's going to be able to delegate this task over. Now, again, what he could do is delegate the training of it. And this is something that we do with our CAs now. We have a wonderful CA trainer and we delegate. Now, could we do this? Can I train a CA? Absolutely. Have I done it lots of times? Yes. Can Lauren do it too? But instead, we're happy to pay somebody else to do it. And Sarah does a magnificent job of doing that. Okay. So she goes through the basics and then we can kind of check in it. So you need to be really clear on what does success look like. Okay. Even if this is something you haven't done. So if we go to things like your finances and stuff like that too, you don't have the nitty gritties to know exactly the checks and balances. Did they do that right? But we want to be really clear on what success looks like. Now, the eighth and final point that I want to talk about through here is, do you enjoy the role? Okay, so the task might totally make sense to delegate with all of the points that I've gone through above, but you might really love doing it. Just because other practices are delegating this task doesn't mean that you should. So enjoyment and passion for certain tasks can drive motivation and satisfaction. So I've got loads of community influencer members who just love editing videos and posting and the creativity of the graphic design and all those things. They've got the money to delegate it. They've got the resources to delegate, but they don't do it because they really love it. Okay. So don't delegate just because other practices are doing it. If you enjoy this role, if it brings you a whole bunch of just meaning and purpose, then keep doing it yourself as well, okay? So let's sum all of this back up. And I want to remind you about the marshmallow test and share with you how this relates to delegation. One of the great social experiments that's ever done is this idea of giving a child a marshmallow and saying, listen, you can have this marshmallow right now. Or if you wait a little bit, 5 or 10 minutes or so, you can have 2. And this really reflects the journey for delegation as well. What we're doing is we're putting up with the short-term pain of having to choose somebody, to train them, to give them the time and the resources, the failure that comes along the way that often feels like we're going backwards to eventually not have that 1 marshmallow now, but get 2 down the track. Now, if you're prepared to develop the skill set and put together the systems to delegate, it will massively improve your practice's ability to impact more people in the community, for you to have more enjoyment, for you to improve the profitability and the impact in your practice, for you to have staff that have more autonomy and mastery and purpose, and this means they will stick around for longer. If you want to buy back more of your time, then this is a necessary skill that you develop. Be patient with yourself, okay? You will get there with time, folks. That's it for this episode, okay? We've spoken all about delegation. Your community needs you getting really good at delegation because it will help you save more lives. It'll help you make a difference to more people. As always, folks, thanks for all that you do. Keep saving lives. I'll see you back here next week. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.